Hi, this is my grandma Reinette Lum, and she's a Pearl Harbor survivor. So I was wondering when's your birth? When were you born?
I was born in 1932.
Yeah. So how old were you when Pearl Harbor happened?
Well, my birth is December 3, and Pearl Harbor came at December 7, a couple of days after I was 9 years old.
Okay, cool. And so what did you feel like when it actually happened? Like what happened?
Okay. Well, that morning, I was getting ready to go to Sunday school. I was all dressed, and I went out to the front yard to get ready because we were going to walk down to my church. And all of a sudden, I looked up in the sky, and there was these small planes coming right overhead, and I could see the pilot's head because it was so hot, down that low, that he was looking up at me with his goggles on, smiling. And these were the Japanese airmen coming in. They were flying all the way across from to go to Pearl Harbor. My house was in the middle here, and they came from one side and they were going to Pearl Harbor on the opposite side. So my dad came out and he said, "Something's happening in Pearl Harbor. I just heard it over the radio." So he said, "Get in the car. We're going to go up the mountain that we live by up and see what's happening." So we went to the top of Tantalus, this is the mountain across from Pearl Harbor. And there we saw bombing. The planes were bombing Pearl Harbor. We actually saw the bombs dropping up there. And then it was really something. So we came home after that, to get ready to because you don't want to be in the way in case they bomb you or shoot you. And after that, after they did all that damage, um, we had to still go to school, and they issued us a gas mask. Everybody had to have a gas mask. Every time you left home, you had to carry that gas mask around with you. It's like a strap, where you have a purse. So you go to school with it and all, and you have practice, sometimes air raid practice and all. But after that, we every night was blackout, and you can't if you, so all services was no night services and whatnot. If your house could have blackout curtain, and if you want to go outside, you got to make sure you cover yourself when you go out and not let the light show. So people didn't really do much at night except stay home and whatnot. So let's see what happened after that. Um, it was so that's what happened, and I think you read that we didn't get hurt too much, but Pearl Harbor, all those people got hurt, got bombed. The ships that you can read about, many Pearl Harbor ships were. The Navy was all sitting there because it was a good harbor, and they didn't know that the Japanese were going to come. It was a surprise. So that's what happened. But I got to see that, and I didn't think anything about it until after you read about it. We were right there. So it was about 4 or 5 years when finally, it was over, 1945, and we can. They didn't have blackouts anymore, and we didn't have to use a gas mask. But we did. Everybody did build. Had people build a bomb shelter in our backyard. If you have a backyard, and we would go in there and practice. It's just a dirt pile, and they have a little dirt seat in there, but just so you be covered and not be in the house in case you got bombed. So I just remember all that. All of us, we grew up that way, but thank goodness we were not hurt. They didn't come back to invade us. So that's what happened.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it was all over the newspaper then, and because nobody really knew about what was happening, and we just was careful. We were not allowed any language schools were all canceled, German, Japanese, Chinese, because they don't want people to talk about things that we don't know what they're talking about in case they're trying to plan things. But we were pretty safe then in Hawaii. I guess in Japan, in California, the Japanese, were taken from their homes to what do you call the
Concentration
concentration of rock
camps.
out in the
Camps.
desert. That was very interesting. But all the Japanese, they were born there and all, but they just couldn't trust in case somebody had any connection with Japan, because there were a lot of Japanese living in California, and in Hawaii there were lots of Japanese. We were all friends and whatnot. It's the government, the Japanese government, that came over and wanted to take over, um, Hawaii, which meant that they attacked the United States because we were part of the United States, the Hawaiian Islands, and that's why the World War II started there. President Roosevelt was president then, and he would go on the radio at night and just tell us, what was happening, not to take care and not to, obey the thing. So when we were during those years, they didn't have all the guys who would go into the service, so there were very few men working in the pineapple field, So what was nice about it is that when we were in school, each high school or each school was allowed to go to the pineapple field, and they would send us buses there, and we would go there. Your school, it was your month, your turn, and we would go there and help pick pineapples because it was all getting rotten if you don't pick it. And so that's how they filled, jobs like that, because so many of the men were going to services and stuff. So that was an interesting thing. We were excused from school to go. It was sort of fun for us, but it was, And then you collected oil, all of, the oil that your parents uh, cook with and left over. You save it because it could help make bombs and things. So you save that, and we went all around the neighborhood and collected the kids, collected in the cans all the people who want to donate their oil, and then we saved newspapers, anything metal was saved to help do that. So that's how it was. It was we lived a normal life otherwise, which was, we were really fortunate. We didn't realize it. We didn't know what war was like before. And there was one Japanese um, came to Waikiki Beach that was in town. He came in one of those one man sub. He doesn't. He goes in there and he doesn't expect to come home because he's going to. What do you call it when you donate your life?
Kamikaze.
Yeah, they even the plane only carried one person, the small plane. They plan to go there and they don't even expect to come back. They're volunteering to die. So many of the people didn't get back to their ship, but they would hit they would hit the battleships, and or they were shot down and what. So So that's how we lived. It was very fortunate. I grew up that way, and so um, that's how it goes. They had to go through Hawaii to get to Japan, and Guam and Philippines where the war was, and many of the servicemen would come and go through there, and so they got to know what Hawaii was like because they had to practice and everything before they went over to the war area. And many of them came back after the war and loved to live in Hawaii. So a lot of them became, had their business and started growing there. We didn't have a lot of things going before that with just us, the Hawaiian people and that small town and whatnot. But after the World War II ended and all, then all the business started coming, big hotels, and all the big, shopping and everything grew and expanded.
You see?
I saw their face looking down at us. They had the what's that cover, the that
Helmet?
covering, that cover.
Flag?
They pulled back the
A cockpit.
cockpit, and then he was just looking down at me, smiling. He's, because as he goes by, he sees other people all the way across. Because we couldn't hear them. They didn't say anything, but they were looking at us, smiling. They knew that, they were going to do something good. And
Yeah.
we didn't know what they were going to do. We didn't even know, never heard of them.
What did the planes look like?
The small black, but it's not black, small plane with the red sun on the wing,
Underneath the wing.
wingtip. Something. So it was the Japanese plane. But then it was all over the radio. They were shooting, broadcasting it right away, what was happening, so that people would, get under cover and whatnot. They were, like I said, they were going down the city, where the Ala Moana
Yeah.
there. They didn't have Ala Moana, but they shot here and there, but they didn't really endanger a whole lot of people. So Waikiki Beach was where that submarine came up, and they captured him. That.
You feel?
Well, I didn't understand what was going on. I never saw these planes or heard about the Japanese coming over. But after the World War, and we realized how much damage there was and how many people died, we were really thankful that they did not invade us, and that we would be under their
Rule.
under them, because they captured us. They didn't. They left after that. Went back on the ship. Went back on that big carrier. Went back to Japan. But they lost a lot of people too. Lots of their planes did not get back, or the submarines that they had, one-man submarine.
You feel?
Well, I didn't understand what was going on. I never saw these planes or heard about the Japanese coming over. But after the World War, and we realized how much damage there was and how many people died, we were really thankful that they did not invade us, and that we would be under their
Rule.
under them, because they captured us. They didn't. They left after that. Went back on the ship. Went back on that big carrier. Went back to Japan. But they lost a lot of people too. Lots of their planes did not get back, or the submarines that they had, one-man submarine.